What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto got a Rinnegan before the war? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto looked over the vastness of the ocean before him. The ocean did not have his sight though, no, it was the shoreline that he had his sights set on. He was waiting for an attack to come as he stood on the surface of the water. The village of the whirlpools behind him as he stood protectively over the village as the darkness of night rolled in. He knew an attack was coming and he prepared wholeheartedly for it as his black cloak he wore billowed in the breeze set in by the ocean's current. The only thing that stuck out on him was the purple eyes that glowed in the night from his hood that he had draped over his head. They should be coming any minute now, they won't know what hit them, Naruto thought. He knew what he needed to do, he would show no mercy against the attackers, they would feel pain just as his mom had when this very same village had fallen in his time, but now he would change that. This village will not fall today, it will stand amidst the chaos of battle and will stand for many years to come, Naruto thought. He started to remember what happened to him to be put in this situation because he finally had a chance to change many things he thought should never have happened. Flashback. Everything changed on that day. The day the Rinnegan was given to me. Nagato, a person with a dream of peace not unlike my own, but in the end my type of peace won out. Konan, his partner, had watched as Nagato's eyes faded. My eyes changed from their dark blue to the purple of the Rinnegan. She was so shocked at the time it was almost funny. He too was shocked, but since he had the eyes now, he knew what he needed to do, and that is to make the world a better place. Peace would come in time and he would be the one to bring the shinobi nations into a new era of peace. I was 16 at the time I had received these eyes. I had no idea how to use them, but Konan showed me how. She helped me develop my own unique abilities alongside the ones Nagato had used against me. I knew I was not completely ready to face every challenge quite yet, but I knew I needed to start. It had been 2 years since I first started to train with these eyes. I was 18 when my training was complete, but that was also the same day the Rinnegan had glowed. I did not know what happened at the time, but I remember that these eyes I have started to glow brightly before the rings of the Rinnegan began to expand. They expanded even past the eyes themselves. The rings had surrounded me, each with their own separate color illuminating the field we were standing in. Konan did not know what was happening either. She stood a bit back from me, baffled by the lights. After a couple seconds I could not see anything anymore as the lights from the rings got too bright, bathing everything in its colors. It was the only thing I could see, the colors were so beautiful. The light started to fade around me. The rings had also began to enclose around me, but I did not see any of it because when the light in the clearing began to fade, so did my vision. I was terrified at the time because I did not know what was happening, but before long my vision turned completely black and I lost track of where I was. It was like I was trapped in a void of endless darkness and uncertainty. The blackness did not last long, that which I am very thankful for because I was starting to go mad. When I opened my eyes though, I did not expect to see a fight going on in the treetops around me. The sight of Iwa ninja and Konoha ninja battling it out surprised me greatly. I knew they had not fought battles like this since the second and third shinobi wars. I slowly had gotten up from my position as I continued to watch the fight ensue in front of me. I had enough of this pointless fight in front of me, so I did the only thing that came to mind at the time. It might not have been the best of ideas, but it got the results I wanted. I extended my arms out as I called out one of the jutsu I had learned from Konan. Shinra Tensei, I had shouted right when the ninja had collided in the center of the field. I watched satisfied as my jutsu that I had called out slammed into them, lifting them straight off their feet, sending them flying. Most of the ninja had died on impact with the trees in the area, leaving a bloody mess probably to never come up. Some of the other ninja though died just from contact with my jutsu. I had walked out of that area never looking back to see the bodies. I had better things to do than mourn over lifeless bodies. Any ninja to him that caused needless death needed to die themselves, no matter who or what they were. After I had killed those ninjas I had went to Konoha to see if indeed it was standing because I needed to know if I was back in time during the second shinobi war. The sight that I had seen was Konoha, but a different Konoha than I grew up in. There were more ninja jumping around than he remembered, and even the shops were all different. He now knew he indeed did travel to the past. What was I to do though? I wasn't sure until I had heard a group of ninja talking about an attack. They were talking about whirlpool and the possible attack on the place about to go down. He kept listening until he heard that they had caught sight of Iwa and Kumo ninja heading towards Whirlpool, and in 2 days the attack would commence. He heard them say the council was still deciding to help them or not, and that Kushina wanted to go help but she was too young, so they would not let her go. I had clenched my fists so hard by what I had heard. They were supposed to be allies with Whirlpool, so they should not have to discuss helping them. My mother's village was going to be attacked, so I headed in the direction of Whirlpool intent to wipe out the Iwa and Kumo ninja before they could land even a single hit on Whirlpool. The second Shinobi War was underway and the first place to be attacked was Whirlpool, but I was not going to let that happen again. Even though in this time Kushina wasn't my mother and she did not know who I was, but I felt dedicated to stop the attack, not just for the village but to stop a senseless slaughter that could be avoided. When I approached Whirlpool, it had been 1 day later. I got there so quickly because I did not rest and I did not slow down. I wanted to get there as fast as I could. I had entered the village and began looking around. I bought a cloak and new ninja equipment for the battle to come. Once I had everything I needed, I walked out of the village, passing many Uzumakis on the way. They had looked so peaceful, that is what made my resolve complete. Many of them had looked at him curiously, wondering who he was and what he was doing there. They did not know it yet, but he would be their savior. He had walked out onto the water in the same place he now stood, adorning his black cloak among the heavy current of the raging ocean before him. End of flashback. Naruto's thoughts had been interrupted when he spotted movement on the shore. He got into his ready position as he watched more than 500 Iwa and Kumo ninja charge across the ocean's surface. Some of them got caught in the whirlpools that surrounded the village, but he knew a lot would make it through. He was correct, as around 300 ninja made it past the whirlpools. They were getting closer by the second, but he stood unmoving defiantly from his spot in the black of night, with the only light being the moon that illuminated the water's surface. Naruto looked up at the moon for a second before he turned his sights back on the attacking ninja. Naruto brought his arms out, palms facing the charging ninja, waiting till they got a little closer. "Shinra Tensei," Naruto shouted out in a deep voice. All the charging ninja saw were purple ringed eyes before they felt a huge force slam into them, decimating a huge portion of their forces. Naruto noticed though that some ninja had survived because they were lucky enough to be behind someone when his jutsu had hit them. Overall, more than half the attacking force was taken out on the last attack. His attack only left around 50 ninja left. I did not want to kill them all in my first attack anyway, because I want them to feel pain just as they made Whirlpool feel in my time. This is going to be fun. Naruto grinned as he ran forward, Rinnegan shining bright in the darkness of that night. The night quickly turned crimson red. The ocean filled with ninjas' lifeless bodies, and some were still alive. Naruto did not care though, as the ninjas withered in agony before they sank to the ocean's bottom. The battle was still raging on as reinforcements quickly joined the fray, trying to enclose him from all angles. Naruto spotted the ninja going through hand signs, but he did not care. He only stood there and waited for their combined attack to come. He did not have to wait long as 4 towering lightning dragons raced towards his position from all angles. Hey, they don't know who they are dealing with, Naruto thought as he brought both his arms up, pointing his palms to the left and right of himself. The Kumo ninja would not expect what was to come. Naruto waited for the enormous lightning dragons to reach him. He wanted the ninja before him to know there was no way to beat him as he brought the world crashing down around them. When the towering lightning dragons were only inches from him, he caught sight of the Kumo ninja who launched the attack at him. They all had confident grins set in place on their ugly faces. He thought they were ugly. It must have been from other battles they were in, or they were just born ugly. I will show them that they are powerless before my might. After this night is through, I will be the only one left standing, Naruto thought as the lightning dragons crashed into him. The Kumo and Iwa ninja that surrounded his position began to cheer because they believed that they had won the fight, but they were sadly mistaken. Right before their very eyes, the 2 lightning dragons slowly disintegrated. Naruto stood on the surface of the water, unmoving from the same place he stood before the attacks had been called out. Time to finish them off, Naruto thought, pulling a katana out of his pitch black coat he wore. However, none of the ninja around him realized any of this because right when the katana had been drawn, the first ninja had fallen. The ninja's head had been severed from the body as it fell into the water seconds later, along with body as they sank to great depths out of sight. He turned and faced his next victim, giving him no time to run. The Kumo ninja had tried to turn and run, but they were only met with cold purple ringed eyes and a sword plunged into their stomachs. The life faded from their eyes as they fell just like the rest of them. Naruto appeared in front of the last ninja. The Iwa ninja before him looked so frightened he could not help but grin at the poor fool. He decided to torture him before he sent him to the afterlife. "You're pathetic, you guys attack another country blindly with no remorse. It is a pointless slaughter, so I decided to step up and save them. Luck was just not with you guys on this night, but don't worry, you will be going to a better place," Naruto told him with an even bigger grin plastered on his face as he watched the guy quiver in fright. The Iwa ninja took a couple steps back from the man before him. Naruto did not know if but the guys before him was more afraid of his eyes than his actual presence because he had seen those eyes before. "You monster! What are you?" the Iwa ninja shouted. Naruto just grinned wider at the question he was asked. "Me? A monster? No, I am a god that has decided to stop the corruption in this world once and for all, starting with you," Naruto replied. The Iwa ninja tried to get away, but when he turned to run, he was met with a blade cutting right through his shoulder blade. A shower of blood rained out as the Iwa ninja's arm fell lifelessly into the water. The arm socket continued to gush blood with no sign of it stopping in sight. Naruto watched on in cold indifference as the guy grabbed his bloody socket. A blood-curdling scream rang out so far that Naruto knew Whirlpool Ninja had heard it. He knew he needed to finish the guy off now. Naruto stepped up to the kneeling Iwa ninja. With no kind of pain or resentment, he lifted his sword in a striking position. Before Naruto struck the man, he looked around at the once blue waters but now glowed crimson red. The ninja that he had slain, only half of them stayed afloat. The bodies were basked in a white glow from the moon, making them look like they had been dead far longer than the minutes it took him to take all them down. His might was unmatched, and he believed that with this strength he would save the shinobi world from its corruption. Naruto turned back to the only surviving ninja before him out of the 500 that had attacked to begin with. "I hope the next time I have to fight someone, they provide more of a challenge than these ninja had been," Naruto thought as he beheaded the ninja. The head fell instantly off the body as the body spurted out blood like a geyser until it sank below the surface of the water. He turned around to get a good view of the Whirlpool village. He noticed the village was now illuminated by bright lights. Naruto knew Whirlpool Ninja were soon to show up on this scene of battle. The katana in his right hand had been slipped back into his black cloak. "I guess I better get out of here. If I am spotted, they may take me as a threat," Naruto thought. He disappeared out of view before he appeared on the other side of the village outside the village wall. He was on the surface of the water again, but here he noticed that the water was still a luminescent blue with no trace of red from the blood of his victims. Naruto began to hear shouts from where he once stood. He couldn't help but imagine the faces of the Whirlpool Ninja as they spotted all the dead bodies he left in the drifting waters. "I hope they like their gift," Naruto thought, chuckling as he entered the village of Whirlpool a different way than everyone else. He had his own way of entering the village, he did not need the main entrance. He knew he probably would have needed to do this anyway because Whirlpool Ninja were bound to spot the fight. Naruto touched the wall that surrounded the village for protection. The wall wasn't too high, but it was big enough to warn them if anyone were to attack them. It was their first line of defense, which he found out about while walking around the village the day before, but lucky for him he did not need to go over the wall because he had developed a new Rinnegan ability. He focused on the wall for a couple seconds before phasing right through the wall, appearing in a dark and smelly alleyway. He had chosen that spot in the wall before the fight, so he did not appear in an open area. "Maybe I should have picked another area that did not smell as bad," Naruto thought, grumbling to himself. The alleyway smelled like rotten food and dead animal, which was mostly true because as he walked he spotted a couple dead cats that probably died from the rotten food. He quickly left the place behind, not wanting to pass out. He headed towards a hotel that he had found when he was searching for supplies. The hotel looked small, but on the inside the place looked like it was made for royalty. He silently snuck through the village, making sure no ninja patrols caught him in the village. "I know most of the patrol ninjas are probably studying the dead bodies I left by now, but I can't be too careful," Naruto thought. He opened the hotel's small door, but before he walked in he looked back at the village streets. He smiled, knowing that if he did not stop that attack, this village would not be standing anymore. Instead, it would have been burning to the ground about now. I'm glad I stopped a pointless massacre from happening. It doesn't even matter that I won't be getting recognition for it, Naruto thought. He shut the door behind him as he walked to the front counter to get a room for the night. Little did he know he would get the recognition he deserved, but not yet. Naruto approached the counter, not worried in the slightest about being found out that he was the one who killed all those people out there, because there were no bloodstains anywhere on him. He did not want to get any of their dirty, disgusting blood on his newly bought cloak, even though it was black, but he did worry about his eyes because they stuck out like a sore thumb, but on the outside he remained calm. "Would you like a room, sir?" the receptionist asked him with no sign of fear present on her face. Her thoughts, though, were another story. They weren't bad thought. She actually found his eyes very intimidating and exotic, but she did not want to tell him that because then it might make her look weird. Naruto noticed the slight blush appear on her face. He knew why she was blushing, but he did not care at the moment. All he wanted was a room to relax in and maybe ask her to join him as well. "Yes, I would like the best room in the hotel," Naruto asked. He pulled out money from his pocket, placing it atop the counter. The receptionist nodded before grabbing the key off the clip, giving it to him. Naruto began to walk away once he was handed the key, but he decided he wanted some company in his room. He stopped mid-walk, turning his head slightly back to get another glimpse of the receptionist. Naruto noticed the blush on her face had grown darker in color. "I would like some company in my room for the night, so would you like to join me?" Naruto asked. The receptionist could not believe her ears. A hot guy was asking her to come to his room, which never happened to her before. The blush on her face only got redder by the second until she got the courage to push it down. She decided to go with him to his because she was a virgin woman of 20, not a little girl. So she decided to take his offer and give him her virginity. "Sure, I would love to. The name's Yura," Yura said, swaying her hips as she walked around the counter. Naruto smirked, seeing the sway in her hips. Yura wrapped her right arm around his arm, leading him down the hall. They stopped in front of a room. Naruto stepped up to the door, pulling out the key. He unlocked the door as he and Yura stepped into the room. The door closed behind them as they entered. Naruto and Yura walked into the bedroom after they ate dinner, discussing a few things as well as having a good laugh. Naruto pulled off his cloak, throwing it against the wall. Yura stood there knowing what they were about to do, but that was why she came here. They both were stressed out. They found this out when they were talking in the kitchen. The next morning, Naruto had woken up at the break of dawn. The sun could barely be seen outside. It was the perfect time to make his way out of whirlpool. His goal was to become the Jonin sensei of Kushina Uzumaki, but he still did not figure out how he was going to be able to do this. He had many theories on what he was going to do, but he had to pick one before he made it to Konoha. Naruto slid out of the embrace from one Yura who still slept soundly as he made his way out of the bed silently so he would not disturb her sleeping form. "I'm sorry, Yura, but looks like this is goodbye," Naruto thought. He took one last look at Yura before he grabbed his things, putting on his coat and sword. He walked to the door, opening it quietly to not alert Yura that he was leaving. He felt bad not telling her goodbye, but knew he could not risk it. Naruto went out the door, but before he had shut the door, around 5 whirlpool ninja came in the hotel down the hall. "Shit, why are they here?" Naruto thought, cursing up a storm. He walked back into his hotel room, shutting it behind him. Naruto leaned his head against the door to see if he could hear any of what the ninja were saying. The room he stood in was pitch black, but to him he could see everything in the room. "Search every room. We got word that a suspicious person was seen entering in this hotel," a random ninja said. Naruto knew that the person giving the commands must be the leader of the apparent patrol group. "I guess someone did see me enter the village. I had to get out of here a different way now," Naruto thought, grumbling. He just woke up and now he had to try to get away from a patrol of ninja because he did not want to kill them. They did no wrong. Realizing he had no choice because a knock resounded on the door. Naruto turned quickly, walking back into the bedroom. Seeing that Yura was still asleep, he walked over to the right wall to make his silent escape. Just as the door to the room was kicked in, he phased through the wall, appearing in the street outside. He heard the ninja in the room from where he now stood. They could not find him, so they woke up Yura to question her. They got nothing out of her though, as she said that no one had been in the room with her. "Thanks, Yura, I will make sure to pay you back sometime, but make sure you find someone to love," Naruto thought. He began walking down the street away from the hotel. There were no civilians up yet, which explained why the streets were so bare. His train of thought was cut off as 6 ninja appeared around him in a circle, not letting him escape. "What do you guys want?" Naruto asked lazily. He pretended to yawn, acting like he had just woken up to try and fool them, but he got a good look at their faces, noticing that it was not working. They were all poised to attack, but none of them were. Which he did not know why, because usually if you find someone suspicious in your village you either attack them or take them in. He got his answer soon enough as one of the ninja from the group stepped forward. "We want to know why you are in our village when the guards at the gate had no mention of you entering at all," the patrol leader asked. This wasn't the same leader from the hotel. No, this guy looked a whole of a lot stronger than the one from the hotel, but he was not frightened because he could defend himself if need be. "I was in your village to get a good night's sleep. Isn't it pretty obvious?" Naruto replied, hoping for a rise out of the man, but all he noticed was a tick mark had appeared on the man's forehead, making him chuckle a bit. "You still did not answer the question. How did you get in our village undetected? If you don't tell us, we are taking you in to be interrogated," the leader growled out. Naruto looked at the guy, seeing that his anger could not be held back any longer. "Fine, I snuck in by passing right through your village walls, leaving everything intact. I won't tell you how I did this since it is my little secret and you won't get it out of me, because if you try and take me to be interrogated I will kill you guys where you stand," Naruto told them, releasing killer intent to make his point across. The ninja around him had stiffened from the amount of killer intent released. "I only came to help out, but if you treat me as an enemy I will treat you as one," Naruto said. He looked right into the leader's eyes with his own purple ringed ones. He was messing around, but they did not need to know this because needless death should be avoided. The leader's eyes widened, thinking he now knew why the guy in front of him was in the village in the first place, but what he had in mind was crazy. There absolutely would be no way for one man to take down an army of ninja. Naruto looked passive as the leader stood stock still until he began to move seconds later after deciding to ask the question he had on his mind. "Are you the one that destroyed those Iwa and Kumo ninja outside the village? Because from our search of the bodies we found that those 2 villages ninjas were the only ones there. Which meant that either one guy took them down or they attacked each other," the leader said, looking into the purple-eyed guy in front of him. "Hey, I don't know, maybe I did. Maybe I didn't, but what would I get if I gave this information to you?" Naruto said. He stood defiantly even though surrounded by whirlpool ninja. He did not want them to know, but if he could leave here peacefully without having to hurt anyone then he will tell them. All the ninjas stiffened, but the leader did not flinch. He just grinned, thinking the guy was crazy to talk to him while surrounded from all sides. The leader knew though not to attack because the guy in front of him might actually be confident for a reason. "If you were the one to actually have annihilated their troops, then you shall not be hailed as a criminal, but you will be asked to come with us to the Uzukage to explain to him what had transpired," the leader of the patrol said. Naruto thought over what he should do for a couple seconds. For one, he could just bust out and leave, but then people all over will think he was a criminal. For two, he could just tell them the truth so he could make a request to be Kushina's Jonin sensei in Konoha without having to go through the troubles of Konoha by himself. "I did kill them. The reason I killed them was to save you guys from an apparent destruction of your village. I did not want to tell anyone about it though," Naruto said, sighing. The group of ninja around him could not believe it that this guy's annihilated a huge portion of Iwa and Kumo's ninja so quickly. "Okay. Then you're coming with us to explain the battle to the Uzukage," the leader said as he pulled chakra cuffs out to make sure he did not try anything funny. Naruto looked at them disgusted as the leader walked closer. "You put those on me, I will kill you," Naruto said. He looked straight into the man's eyes to make sure he got his point across to the man. Naruto was chuckling not on the outside but on the inside because he liked messing with them. It might even become a new pastime when he returned to the village. The leader of the whirlpool ninja around him slipped the cuffs away quickly from the chakra spike he felt. When the cuffs were away, the chakra spike vanished. "I won't make you wear then, but we all will be staying close till we find out if you're telling the truth," the patrol leader said as he led Naruto down the street. They approached the Uzukage's tower, which stood in the center of the peaceful village. It stood out compared to the other buildings around it, not because of the color but for the size of it. It was about 3 times the size of the other buildings lengthwise, but the height was only a little taller. The building was blue with an Uzumaki swirl in the center of the building's structure. "Wow, nice tower you got here, but I thought the towers for the leaders of each village were smaller than this," Naruto asked. They entered the tower, closing the outer door behind them. Naruto noticed two long hallways to the left and to the right of where he was standing, but in the center across from them against the far wall was a door which had Uzukage emblazoned on the door. It is because not only the Uzukage live here but so do the main Uzumaki family, the patrol leader explained. Naruto knew he was right because down the hallways he spotted multiple doors and big rooms at the far end of the hallways which he guessed were a gathering place to hang out. He was not here though to see the Uzumaki family yet, but he would later. Right now they were going to speak with the Uzukage. The patrol leader lead him into the Uzukage's office, which looked just as grand as the rest of the place had. The Uzukage sat amused as Naruto looked around the office, paying no mind to him. "Why did you bring this guy here, Genji?" the Uzukage asked. His sight were still on the black-haired guy in his room. The Uzukage's eyes widened noticing the Rinnegan. "We brought him here because we believe he might be the one who killed those ninja outside Whirlpool," Genji replied. The Uzukage motioned them out, wanting to talk to the guy alone. Genji and his unit did not want to leave as they protest, but the Uzumaki wanted them to go, so they had left a bit pissed, but they would listen. "Please have a seat if you would," the Uzumaki asked politely. Naruto nodded, taking a seat in front of his desk. Naruto told the Uzukage his name before they discussed the extreme battle that took place just outside Whirlpool. They also discussed Naruto's Rinnegan. This issue surprised him when the Uzukage brought it up, but answered his questions nonetheless. "That is how the battle went, nothing was left out," Naruto said. The Uzukage nodded in contemplation, wondering what he should do now before an idea came to mind. "Since you saved Whirlpool from destruction, anything you need just come and ask me, I will be happy to help you out," the Uzukage said. Naruto grinned by how generous he was, even though he did save them after all. He had two things in mind, but he did not know if the Uzukage would accept them or not. "I have two favors right now, if you would hear me out," Naruto asked slowly. "Sure, what is it that you want?" "The only thing I can't really give you is the village or the seat of being Uzukage," the Uzukage replied. He nodded because he already knew that. It would be a little too extreme if he asked for something like that anyway. "I know that I would never ask for those two things. The two things I want really are just two things I want to become, and they are: I want to become the Jonin sensei for Kushina Uzumaki in Konoha and to become a Whirlpool ninja here once I come back," Naruto asked, knowing the two things he wanted were not too difficult to give him. "Why would you want to become the Jonin sensei of my daughter Kushin for?" "I can easily make you a ninja here, so consider that done already," the Uzukage replied. Naruto pointed to his eyes, trying to give a hint to the cage, which it worked. "I want to help train her in using the Kyuubi. The reason I know that she has the Kyuubi is with these eyes, and the amount of chakra I have makes it so that I can sense each tailed beast and their relative location, just not exact," Naruto replied. The Uzukage nodded in understanding and decided to give him both things. "They're both easy to do. All I have to do is send a message to Konoha telling them that you will be my daughter's Jonin sensei, and you can also be a ninja on your return to this village," the Uzukage said. Naruto bowed slightly to show his respect to the leader. He got up out of the chair once they finished talking. "See you, Naruto. Make sure to take care of my little girl when you go on missions," the Uzukage said, releasing some killer intent to get his point across. It did not really faze him though, as he just shrugged it off, walking to the door. "Will do," Naruto replied as he closed the office door behind him. Once outside the tower, he sighed in relief. The meeting had gone well, and now he could get to know Kushina of this time and even get to teach her some things. "I hope this goes well. I will have to set a powerful genjutsu over my eyes to make sure no one recognizes my Rinnegan," Naruto thought. He noticed it was much brighter out as he walked down the main street of Whirlpool. The civilians were more lively now as they started to open up shops. Ninja were also more frequent now, but none bothered him, which he did not know why, because the Uzukage should not have had enough time to speak with every ninja about him yet. He saw the gate coming up. Before long he walked through the gate out onto the water. Naruto took one last glance towards the village for reasons he only knew. "I can't wait to return to this village to become a Whirlpool ninja, but I have other things to do first, so that has to wait for a bit," Naruto thought. He vanished from sight once he pushed the thought in the back of his mind. Around one day later, he appeared in the forest just outside Konoha, right in the middle of a bandit camp, which surprised him. The bandits surrounded him, all with knives poised to strike him down, which made him laugh because he knew these lowlifes could not defeat them. "Hand over all your valuables and money, maybe then we will let you live," a random bandit said from the group of 25 or so of them. Naruto scoffed at them, they were nothing, and he guessed he would have to show them why he was stronger than them. I have to make sure I do this quick and silently so that Konoha won't be alerted, Naruto thought, sliding out his katana out of his cloak. The bandits did not see the draw as about half of them dropped dead the following second. The remaining 12 bandits looked at him in fright, but he did not care how they felt. The battle continued, if you could even call it that, as he tore them apart. The ground was drenched in blood, and still more spilt onto the ground by the last bandit as he fell over dead, missing an arm which laid on the ground about 10 feet away from the rest of the body. Body parts were all over the place. He made sure they did not utter a sound. They fell quickly, making him sigh in relief as he slid his katana back into his cloak once he cleaned it off on one of the bandits' shirts. Bandits should learn not to attack ninja, or at least know when the other person they were attacking was a ninja, Naruto thought. He looked around the dense forest he was in, making sure no one spotted him. Naruto went through hand signs as a powerful genjutsu enshrouded his Rinnegan eyes. His eyes were now his old eye color of dark blue because he did not want to bring attention to himself in the village. He knew he looked too suspicious with the black cloak. I guess I have no choice but to seal it away for now because I might be taken for an enemy, Naruto thought. He pulled out a sealing scroll, sealing his cloak inside. He put the scroll away and headed towards Konoha's gates. Naruto arrived in front of the gate, casually making it look like he were nothing special. When he passed the gate, however, 2 Anbu ninja appeared in his path. He was thinking how bad his luck must be to be caught so quickly just after he had entered the village, but he noticed the Anbu were just standing there, not attacking him. Hokage-sama has been expecting you, please come with us, the right Anbu said in a monotone voice. The Anbu walked in front of Naruto as they lead him to the Hokage tower. The reason they walked was because Naruto had wanted to walk. The Anbu had to stay with him for security reasons for now, which pissed them off because he walked slow. The village looks really peaceful, it should stay like this. All the little academy kids are probably in class at this very moment, which means I won't be able to see Kushina or any one of them right now, Naruto thought as they made it to the Hokage tower. It had taken them around 40 minutes to get to the tower, not because the tower was far. No, it was because Naruto took his time looking at every little detail of the place. The Anbu were furious, but they would not show it. They were too prideful to break down in anger while still in their uniform. They walked up the tower stairs to the office. Once they reached the top of the stairs, they walked over to the Hokage's office door. The Anbu knocked while Naruto stood there with a grin on his face. Once they were allowed entrance into the office, the Anbu opened the door, leading him into the office. I guess my career as a Jonin sensei starts now, Naruto thought as the office door closed behind him. The Hokage stared at him with calculating eyes, but no hostility in them. Please have a seat, Naruto, I got the message from Whirlpool, we need to discuss how strong you are. We also need to talk about Kushina and her teammates that you will be teaching, the Hokage explained. He nodded as he took a seat in front of the Hokage's desk. Naruto knew this spelled long day because he spotted another Jonin in the seat next to him. It was probably the original Jonin sensei assigned to Kushina and her team. It was a bright and shiny day in Konoha. The birds were chirping and the academy students were sitting in class bored. They were being told to meet in the class the following day to find out who their teammates and Jonin sensei would be. One Uzumaki Kushina was really giddy to begin her career as a ninja because she had been waiting so long. I finally get to be a ninja, Kushina thought. All the academy students were excited at finally being out of that boring old class to the life of a ninja, which some thought that being a ninja would be easy, and this is the same mindset that would result in their team dying or being killed themselves. One Uzumaki Naruto did not know any of this because he had been in a meeting with the Hokage for the past 3 hours. He had been answering the Hokage's questions over the 3-hour time period. Over time, however, the answers that the Hokage received from him got more vague by the minute, which made the Hokage very irritated. After a couple more minutes of the discussion, Naruto started to drift off in his thoughts, missing the last question the Hokage needed an answer for. This is so boring, I would rather be staring up at the clouds like Shikamaru used to right now than listen to any more of the Hokage's words, Naruto thought. He had been asked if he had a place to live or why did he want Kushina's team specifically. He gave the Hokage honest answers each time. After the first couple of questions, they started to get on his nerves. The reason it did was because did the Hokage really expect him to spill everything to him? I have a lot of secrets which will be taken with me to the grave, never to be revealed unless I get a wife, but even then some secrets still would not come out, Naruto thought. He did not notice the Hokage or the genin sitting next to him anymore, only the many thoughts that drifted around in his mind. Unfortunately, his train of thought ends there because the Hokage had raised his voice to make sure he had heard him. Why do you want to train Kushina's team so bad, and what are you going to be teaching your genin team? Sandaime Hokage asked. The Hokage looked directly into Naruto's eyes, wanting an answer because Naruto would not be leaving here unless he got one. The reason I want to train them so bad is my own, but I have no ill will towards them at all. I am going to teach them all the basic, then going from there I will teach them the most advanced things of being a ninja, along with teaching Kushina how to use the fox's chakra without damage to the body, Naruto replied. The Sandaime Hokage began to write on a piece of paper. I could not tell what type of paper it was, but once he finished he handed the paper over. I wonder what this is, Naruto thought. The piece of paper had 3 names on it, but he did not know what this paper was for. He spotted Uzumaki Kushina's name on the paper. The other names on the paper were Nawaki Senju and Shisui Uchiha. All 3 were from major clans of the Leaf Village. There is no way that the Hokage would set these 3 up because their clans fought way too much. I finally have a chance to help Tsunade save her brother and maybe her boyfriend. I have a chance to make this team strong, so I will train them into the ground until everything I have taught them is drilled in their heads, never coming out, Naruto thought. The possibilities for how strong the team could grow was endless, and nothing would stop him from teaching them now. Naruto looked at the Hokage for confirmation on his choice of this team for him, which got him a nod from the Sandaime. This team looks like it is going to be a handful, but I won't make an assumption just because they might actually work together, Naruto thought. His training would be torture on them, so they better not act up or they will receive his torture training full force. His train of thoughts were cut off once again as a key was chucked at him. The key looked brand new and the copper did not even look smudged yet. That key is for your new apartment. The place is already set up, so you do not have to worry about that at all. Also, the Academy Genin teams will be given to their respective Jonin sensei tomorrow around 8, so make sure you are there to pick up your team, the Sandaime said. I am never going to be late in my life, Naruto thought as he remembered Kakashi from his time was completely lazy. Maybe he could change the pervert pretense in Kakashi before it could spread out of control. The meeting went on, nothing much worth mentioning in it for the rest of the time. Finally, after 4 long hours of continued talking, Naruto was able to leave the Hokage tower. By this time though it had already began to get dark, but not too bad, only a little. That took too freaking long. I am never going to do that again, Naruto thought in dismay. That night he did not go to the hotel to sleep, but instead chose to stay up all night in Training Ground 7 because even a god can still get stronger. Many people passed the training ground before it got too dark to see. Most had thought nothing of it, but some thought the person must be crazy training so hard in the middle of the night. As the night passed, the training ground got destroyed, and when I mean destroyed I mean it. The training ground looked like it went through the Second Ninja War before the war even started. The sun had come up, showing the training ground in its awful showing. Naruto stood in the center of the training, noticing all the cut down trees and the trees that were uprooted from his Rinnegan techniques. There were also jutsu marks from all the elements spread out through the clearing. Some places looked burnt, some places looked shredded as well. His techniques were a deadly thing and they needed to be treated with caution. I guess I should have held back more because I did not want to end up destroying the whole training ground overnight, Naruto thought. He had mostly used genjutsu that night so he could improve on a once weakness, but no, since he started training in it the most, it had become his ultimate trump card when in a crunch not able to get out. He looked towards the sun to see what time it was as he slid his katana into the holster on his back. The genjutsu around him faded, revealing that for most of the night he plastered a genjutsu on, and a triple-layered one no less. I guess it is time to pick up my team now, Naruto thought. A moment later he vanished into thin air like he was never in Training Ground 7. The next moment he appeared outside the room numbered 14. I think I will mess with them a bit for fun before I take them as a team, Naruto thought, smirking. A clone appeared next to him as it transformed into a fat guy easily weighing around 500 pounds. Naruto took a step back and let the fat old man through the door. He was able to open it but got caught halfway through the door. The fat old guy's eyed and head turned towards his team. Team 5 looked disgusted at how fat the guy was, but no one made to move. "Hey old man, you stuck or what?" Kushina asked, chuckling. "Yeah, I am. I could use a little help here because if I can't get out of this doorway then you won't get no training from me since I am your sensei," the fat old guy clone announced. This shocked them beyond belief because this old fat guy had just said that he was their sensei. "No way, how are you going to keep up with us, you old man?" Nawaki shouted as he pointed a finger at the man who was still stuck and showed no signs of coming loose anytime soon. Shisui just sat there with a sweat drop on his forehead from finding out who their sensei was. "I am your sensei, you little shithead, so get me out of here or you all will be stuck in this class for another whole year, maybe more," the fat old guy clone announced. This scared them because they did not want to be an academy student any longer but an actual ninja. They all got up to help him after that comment was made. What they did not know is if they had looked at the back row they would have spotted Naruto grinning like crazy. "I'm going to enjoy this," Naruto thought. After about 2 hours of trying to get the old man out of the doorway they sank to the floor in defeat because they had tried everything from pushing the guy out to buttering him up to see if he would slide out. Nothing worked. All three looked exhausted, so Naruto knew they had enough even if they would hate him for life now, but it did not matter, he still had the pictures of them trying to butter the guy up. Naruto made a hand sign watching as his clone in the doorway vanished in a puff of smoke before the genin's eyes. They could not believe that it was a clone the whole time. "Whoever played a prank on me like this is going to get it," Kushina growled out. She wanted to tear the person who did this apart for embarrassing her this bad. They turned looking at the back row of the classroom when clapping resounded through the room. Naruto walked down the aisle making his way to them all the while still clapping. "I like the show you guys put on. It was definitely original, I can say that much," Naruto said. He chuckled at the two angry faces of Kushina and Nawaki. Shisui's face looked perfectly composed, but if you looked closer you could see a tick mark above his eyes showing his mood. "Why are you guys so mad? I only used a cage bunchin to henge into a old fat man, but you decided to help him, so it isn't all my fault," he told them. It only made it worse as Nawaki charged him in anger. Naruto grabbed the fist before he lifted the boy off the ground by his fist alone before throwing him headlong straight into Kushina. When Nawaki collided with Kushina they both toppled backwards, not expecting something like that to happen. "That's no way to treat your sensei now, is it?" Naruto asked them. Their eyes widened because this guy in front of them that only looked about 18 was proclaiming himself as their sensei. "How is that possible when you only look about 18 yourself, which isn't much older than us?" Nawaki proclaimed, making sure to get his point across. Kushina thought the same thing as Nawaki, but Shisui had a completely different thought altogether. "If he is indeed our sensei then he must be really strong to become a jonin instructor so young," Shisui thought. He knew that appearance and age never mattered as a ninja because you could be any age and be just as powerful as long as you train each day to its fullest. "Age doesn't matter when you're a ninja and I am your instructor, so get used to it. Meet me at Training Ground 5 in 20 minutes from now or you will be sent through the academy once again." "That's not fair, you can't do that, right Shisui?" Nawaki shouted as he looked to his right, but Shisui was nowhere in sight. "He headed to the training ground when I first had mentioned what you needed to do, but now you only got 15 minutes to get to the training ground, so you better hurry," Naruto said, grinning. He watched as Kushina and Nawaki ran out of the classroom as fast as they could because they did not want to take any chances just in case if he could really send them back to the academy. "Hey, I like messing with people's minds, it keeps me busy," Naruto thought. Vanishing with no trace from the classroom as he appeared in Training Ground 5. He had around 7 minutes to kill until Shisui got there, then probably another 5 minutes until Kushina and Nawaki to show up. The 8 minutes until Shisui would get there were used for Naruto to get some of his thoughts straight because he did not know what to teach Kushina or when to start to teach her in using the Kyuubi's chakra. The other two on the team have the potential to be great ninja too, just like Kushin. They would all have longer lives now because of him. He would make sure Nawaki would not die in the second ninja war that was on the horizon. He also would not let Shisui die to give himself up for the will of fire. Kushina would also live past the day he was born as well. He will make a definite fact that nothing happens to any one of them. "I will bring about peace to this corrupted world, starting from the smallest things as they start to build becoming something great," Naruto thought. He had been leaning against the tree for the time being. Naruto waited for about 8 minutes and just as he predicted Shisui appeared in the training ground. Shisui, just wait for your teammates to arrive and then I will explain a couple things to you guys, Naruto said. Shisui did not look surprised much that his teammates were not there yet. It was probably because he knew them pretty well. After another 5 minutes, Kushina and Nawaki ran into the training ground. Nawaki looked extremely tired and Kushina looked like she never ran at all. The stamina you get for housing the Kyuubi is amazing, Naruto thought as he looked between all three of them, but his gaze lingered on Kushina, which she caught, but it did not matter because she could not make out what the look meant. We will all introduce ourselves one after the other. I will go first to show you how it is done. My name is Naruto Yue and my likes are training and creating new jutsu. My dislikes are war and poverty while my goal is to bring about peace to the shinobi nations, Naruto explained. I'm next, my name is Nawaki Senju. My likes include my older sister Tsunade Ne-chan and training to be the best. I don't have many dislikes besides people who down me or make fun of me because of my goal is to be Hokage, Nawaki shouted out at the end. Kushina did not go right away, which made Naruto wonder why, but it was quickly dashed. My name is Kushina Uzumaki. My likes are Whirlpool Village, also the people in it, but I like training as well because I want to become the first female Hokage. I dislike anyone who makes fun of my hair and my face. If you do, I will kick your ass, Kushina says, pointing to Naruto. His eyes widened from the implication of what was said. Why would I make fun of your hair or face? Your red hair looks beautiful adorning your face. If people make fun of you then they're just jealous, so ignore them, Naruto said. Kushina could not believe her ears, someone actually called her hair beautiful. A big red blush appeared on her face as she looked right into Naruto's eyes, but she quickly got a hold of herself, pushing the blush away before he had seen her. Get a hold of yourself, Kushina. He only called your hair and face beautiful, Kushina thought as another blush found its way onto her face. She did not know what was wrong because this feeling felt new to her, but she also knew that she should not tell anyone about it yet either. Naruto motioned for Shisui to go, ignoring the blushing Kushina. My name is Shisui Uchiha. My likes are training and my friend Itachi, who is my only friend from the clan. I dislike the clan's ways of copying everything while not gaining it from hard work. My goal for the future is to shape and fix the way of the Uchiha clan, Shisui announced. Naruto was glad he had an inspiring team of genin who were aiming high because he would help them achieve their goals, because it is the sensei's job to see it out. Meet here tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock for your genin exam. Oh, and don't eat, you'll throw it up, ya ne? Naruto stated, vanishing without a trace. The genin had many things to think about and they knew they would not stop till they were done. The genin left the training ground with a new vigor to beat Naruto tomorrow during the exam. You guys will go far, Naruto thought. Appearing in the same place he had left not even a moment ago, he slid out his katana as he began training throughout the night once again. The next morning Naruto was in the training waiting for his team to appear. That's what it seemed anyway, but actually he sent shadow clones throughout the training ground to set up traps and jutsu seals. They better get here soon or I will rethink giving them the test, because if they cannot even be on time then they don't deserve to even be ninja, Naruto thought. He looked at the sun's position, noticing Team 5 only had about 3 minutes left. He vanished from his spot without a trace as a kunai whizzed by the spot he had been in. They're here, but it looks like they started the test already. Hey, this is going to be fun, Naruto thought. He looked down in the clearing, seeing Nawaki. The rest of the team were nowhere in sight, but he sensed them at 2 different positions waiting for Nawaki to get attacked. At least they're smart, but not really, because I never told them what type of test yet, Naruto thought, sighing. He was just going to tell them during the fight, he guessed. Before Kushina or Shisui, who were hiding in the shadows of 2 trees, could blink, Nawaki fell face down into the ground. The hit looked hard enough to leave an imprint of his face in the ground, most likely. Naruto appeared above Nawaki with a kunai poised to kill him. He stood there though not attacking, he was waiting to see what the rest of the team would come up with to save their teammate. The test is simple, all you have to do is land 2 hits consecutive on me to become genin, Naruto shouted loud enough for them to hear him. The next thing he knew, 20 kunai flew at him from the position where Kushina was located. His sight caught explosive notes on at least half of them. If you like throwing explosives, you better be prepared to dodge them as well, Naruto said as his arms lifted up, palms facing the incoming kunai. Shinra Tensei, Naruto shouted. The kunai stopped in mid-air for a split second before turning directions, impacting trees around Kushina position. The second before they went off, Kushina lunged out of the tree line as the explosive tags went off, sending her skidding across the ground, just barely making it from the explosion. What the hell was that? Nawaki thought. His face was still implanted in the ground because Naruto kept him from getting up. He tried to get up many times, but the pressure that held him down felt like a ton of weights. What was that jutsu? I never heard of something that could deflect incoming projectiles like that, Shisui thought, studying the fight before him. His job was to wait for an opening to attack their sensei, and since they only needed 2 hits on him it would be easy. Well, that's what he thought anyway. My 10 clones are still in the forest, so Shisui better watch out, Naruto thought, chuckling. He did not have time to think though, as Kushina charged him with a kunai in hand. As she reached him, however, 2 hands shot out of the ground, pulling her under with only her head left out. Damn it, let me out of here, Kushina shouted. She was not able to move her at all. The ground had her locked in place. The only way for her to get out was for either Shisui or Nawaki to save her. Nah, I think you look better like this, Naruto replied, lightly laughing. This only made her more pissed, however, as a string of curses sounded from her mouth. You're not getting out anytime soon with that mouth, Naruto said. He lifted his leg back before swinging it forward, kicking the downed Nawaki in the ribs, lifting him up, sending him clear across the training ground. Before Nawaki impacted the ground, however, Shisui appeared, catching him in mid-air, placing him up right next to him. They began to devise another plan of attack, but they knew they needed to save Kushina first. In the field you have to come up with a plan on the spot. What you're doing is leaving you wide open for an attack. You're standing right there, so we don't need to worry, Nawaki stated. Naruto just stared at them for a moment to decide whether or not to tell them or not. I would look around you because you are surrounded, Naruto said, smiling deviously. Nawaki and Shisui looked around them but spotted nothing until a shimmer appeared around them. Naruto had let his genjutsu he had put around them slip a bit so they could see it. Kai, Shisui said, dispelling the genjutsu around him and Nawaki. After it was dispelled, they realized Naruto had told them the truth. They really were surrounded for all sides. 6 Naruto clones had locked them in a circle. They were able to dispel all the clones a minute later because Naruto was holding back. He did not want to kill them after all. What kind of sensei would he be? Good work, but you missed too, Naruto said. Shisui and Nawaki looked confused for a moment before they tried to turn around quick enough to destroy the clones that had come out of the ground behind them. You guys better move, Naruto shouted his warning. The 2 clones began going through hand seals before they held the last one. Bunshin Daibakuha. The 2 clones shouted, making the 2 genins' eyes widen as they jump away from the blast, but the blast hit them while they were in mid-air, sending them straight into the tree line, vanishing out of sight. Kushina could not believe her eyes. Her 2 teammates might be dead because of their sensei. I guess I should have held back a little more. Oh well, too later for the now, but they should have survived that. If they didn't, then they're not good enough to be a ninja, Naruto said. Kushina looked away from the tree line where her 2 teammates were sent flying, maybe not even alive anymore. You're crazy. If they're not alive, I am going to pummel you till next week, Kushina shouted. It looked kind of funny with no body, just a head that shouted threats that could not be carried out. Ah, Kushina-chan, are you scared? Nato said, teasing her. He pulled out a kunai, putting the blade against her neck, just enough for it to bleed a little but not enough to do a lot of damage. Kushina gulped in fear as she stared up at her sensei, believing she was about to die. Naruto pulled back, seeing the scared look on her face, chuckling lightly. Don't worry, I won't kill you, Kushina-chan, Naruto said. Naruto began laughing again at the look she gave him. Teasing was so much fun, but what he did not know was due to his actions Kushina began to gain a crush on him, but she did not know this yet because she thought she was only embarrassed at the moment. Stop teasing me, we are going to pass this test, and when we do I'm going to kick your ass, Kushina said with a light blush adorning her face. Naruto ignored the last thing he said as he entered the forest where Nawaki and Shisui had gone. Once Naruto entered the forest, he turned around and waited in a shadow of a tree, knowing that Shisui and Nawaki were going to try and rescue Kushina first before coming after him. He was right as Nawaki entered the clearing, but no Shisui, but he sensed him not far off, probably making sure they got away safely. I hope they like the little present I left, Naruto thought. He had placed a seal near where Kushina was without her knowing. Due to his teasing, she never saw anything. Just as Kushina was lifted out of the ground, a seal appeared on the ground, lighting up. Shisui did not know what it was, and neither did Kushina because she did not receive her advanced SEAL training yet. All questions though were answered as the ground shifted a bit before the whole ground around them became one giant sandpit. Let's see how they get out of this, Naruto though chuckling. Kushina and Shisui started sinking into the pit, no way to get out. He began observing the show. Damn it, we are stuck, but another thing, how does he know seals so well? Is he in Uzumaki? Nawaki asked Kushina as they struggled to get out of the sandpit before they sank. It isn't possible, Uzumakis have red hair, but that doesn't matter right now, we have to get out of this first, Kushina shouted. She was becoming irritated by all the traps their sensei laid out for them. Could he not just face them head on? It would be better to get their asses whooped straight forward than being caught by traps which were embarrassing to be caught, and especially one right after another. Right when Kushina shouted about getting out, a rope dangled down into the sandpit in front of her. Grab a hold, Shisui said from up above on solid ground. Kushina was the first one up, but when Shisui tried to bring up Nawaki, a kunai cut the rope he held, sending Nawaki back into the bottom of the sandpit. Looks like sensei won't let us all regroup, Shisui said. Nawaki was at the bottom of the sandpit letting some curses go because his butt now hurt from the impact with the hard sand at the bottom. Naruto appeared in the sandpit right behind Nawaki, giving him a chop to the back of the neck, knocking him out instantly. Both Kushina and Shisui eyes widened when Naruto disappeared with Nawaki, leaving no traces of chakra behind. The sandpit closed up like it was never there to begin with. Naruto appeared back on solid ground 20 feet away as he laid the knocked out Nawaki on the ground. You two got 1 hour to save your teammate. If you don't save him by then, he will die before your very eyes, Naruto said as not a second later the whole clearing was filled with clones. I will be waiting for the two of you in the direction, Naruto explained, pointing towards the east side of the training which had the biggest trees. The reason he set this up was to see if they could detect his traps laid out in the forest before they reached him. Naruto lifted Nawaki back up, vanishing into thin air once again. All the clones charged the two genin. They both got into taijutsu stances preparing for the onslaught of clones. The battle between TWP genin and 100 clones commenced. It was a spectacular battle that lasted about 30 minutes, which only left about another 30 minutes left to save Nawaki. Though we're both physically and mentally exhausted. I'm tired, I don't believe we can win this fight in the state we are in, Shisui stated, leaning on his knees for support, almost completely exhausted from the bout they were in. Their clothes looked horrible as well. There were holes all through them, being because some of the clones had exploded. Kushina did not look or feel much better than Shisui, but she would never give up because Nawaki would be counting on them to save him, so she would not go down without a fight. I don't care if we have a 0 chance of winning, I am still going to try because I want to kick his ass so bad, Kushina said, growling at the end, remembering the teasing he had done. She wanted her revenge. It might not come right away, but she would have it soon or later. I guess you're right, let's show sensei who's boss, Shisui said. They both looked towards the forest where their sensei would be. After they got a good look, they both entered the forest from 2 different angles just in case if there were any traps laid out for them. Too bad this would not save them. Different trees around them began to glow before pink and yellow pellet-sized shells came at them. Some missing, but they began to come faster at them. The pellets began to impact them all over, leaving bruises as well as giving them a new look. Naruto was waiting up in a tree branch further in the forest. There were traps laid out all around him, that's mostly why he stayed stock still in his spot. I wonder when they are going to get here. It's been 50 minutes already, but I felt some of my seals activate, so they should be getting closer by now, Naruto thought. When he finished that train of thought, 10 kunai came at him from the left and from the right. That trick did not work the first time, so it will not work now, Naruto stated as he brought his palms up in both directions. Shinra Tensai, Naruto shouted as the kunai with explosive notes were sent soaring back the way they came. Naruto heard 2 thuds land on the forest floor a second before the forest lit up in flames from the explosion. Naruto jumped back to a further branch, dragging along Nawaki by his shirt. Kushina and Shisui now stood on the branch he once stood on, staring at him with hate-filled glares. I hate you, sensei. Do you know how long it's going to take to get this paint out of my skin and hair? Kushina seethed. She did not really look threatening when she was painted both blue and pink. Why would you want to take the paint out? It makes you look more exotic, Ha ha ha, Naruto replied. His response only made Kushina madder, making Kushina and Shisui jump forward at him intent to take him out. Kushina aimed to fight their sensei while Shisui grabbed Nawaki. Naruto jumped away before Kushina made contact with him. Due to this, Shisui was able to retrieve Nawaki. "We win, sensei," Kushina shouted, pumping her fist in the air. Naruto only gained a wide smirk on his face, which made Kushina and Shisui look on in confusion. "I would look again," Naruto said as Nawaki appeared in his arms. Kushina and Shisui eyes widened as they looked down to see the body Shisui was holding glowed white. "Crap, it's a trap," Shisui shouted, chucking the body out of the tree, but due to the close proximity the explosion that followed hit them worse than the others, knocking them out with first and a couple second-degree burns. Naruto approached their downed form, sweat dropping. "Maybe I went way too hard on them. Oh well, they will be fine in a day or so," Naruto thought. He hoisted all three over his shoulder as he vanished, leaving not traces. When he had appeared in the hospital, there was quite a ruckus as doctors and nurses were rushing to take them into a room to get checked over. Once nurse did not leave though, it was Tsunade, and she did not look very happy. Naruto gulped in fear because in his time Tsunade had been dangerous, but in this time she was in her prime right now, which made her abnormal strength skyrocket. "What happened to get them that hurt? And you better have a good explanation or you won't see tomorrow," Tsunade stated, balling her fists. Lucky or not, the Sandame strolled into the hospital after being told 3 genin had been brought in. The reason he did not know yet. When he spotted Naruto, he believed since he was their sensei he should know what happened to them. "What happened to them, Naruto?" the Sandame asked calmly. He knew he could not get away without telling them now. He sighed in dismay, hoping that Tsunade would not completely flip on him. "They got that way from my test I set up for them to become official genin," Naruto said. This shocked both Tsunade and the Sandame, which the shock did not stay on Tsunade's because she decided Naruto needed a beating. She began to walk forward to pummel him into tomorrow. Naruto just stood there ready to take her anger full force, even though he knew he could easily get away if he wanted to. However, before Tsunade could reach Naruto, the Sandame stopped her in her tracks. "You should not have been so rough on them. They are only genin after all. Did they pass the test or fail?" Sandame asked. He was curious to know the answer because they looked pretty beat up. It would be a total letdown for them if they didn't pass. "Yeah, they passed with flying colors, literally," Naruto said, chuckling. He vanished, leaving no trace as Tsunade's fist passed through the spot he had been standing. The S&Aim's eyes widened, not thinking that Naruto would have got away from that hit. "Looks like he is hiding many secrets," the Sandame said, chuckling. Tsunade did not like this comment, and since she was still mad at Naruto, she turned full force, punching a hole in the wall that later she would have to pay for to relieve her anger. The Sandame quickly left the scene once Tsunade did that because he did not want to receive the force behind her punch. The next morning came quickly for Naruto because he had been lost in thought while training. He did get some sleep, but only about 5 hours before he got up to train. To him, the night time was the best time to train. He appeared in the hospital room that had his damaged Team 5 in it. He saw the looks he was receiving from Kushina, Nawaki and Shisui, but he did not let it bother him, so he let a grin stretch across his face. "Congratulations, you guys pass," Naruto shouted. Team 5 just continued to stare at him, still not looking too happy about what happened. Kushina threw a kunai at him as it whizzed by his face, but he did not move an inch. "Aw, come on guys, can't you take a joke?" Naruto said, lightly laughing. Team 5 was now officially a team, even though they did not like him much for the torture he made them go through, but they will have to deal with it. He guessed that the team will work out and that tomorrow would be another day. "Hee hee, you have a crush on sensei," Nawaki laughed as the team was walking to Training Ground 5 the day after they were released from the hospital. Naruto had told them to meet there at 8 o'clock. Some of the paint could still be seen in Kushina's hair, but it was slowly going away due to her mauling her hair with shampoo and steaming hot water the night before. "Do not, why would I have a crush on some crazy guy who almost killed us?" Kushina exclaimed. She turned her head away from them, acting like she was pouting, but in reality she had a big blush sprayed across her face, not wanting them to see it, but unlucky for her they did see it and they would not let it go. "Don't like Kushina, you like how strong he is and the teasing because it is written all over your face," Nawaki laughed out. Nawaki missed the angry look that passed her face, but before long he found out as a fist slammed into his face, sending him into the window of a store across the street. All they heard was cursing from the shop owner before they booked it out of there before they had to pay anything, leaving Nawaki to his fate. That was a little harsh, don't you think, Kushina? He was only messing with you after all, Shisui explained. They were now walking to the training ground again, slowing down when they were out of sight from the shop. Kushina turned her head towards Shisui, giving him a big old grin. I wasn't harsh, I even held back so he should recover in no time, Kushina replied. Right when she finished that statement, Nawaki appeared next to the two of them with a new bruise added to his cheek courtesy of Kushina's fist. Kushina just laughed at the look Nawaki gave her, adding to the fact the bruise had her fingers outlined made it even funnier. It's not funny, Kushina. I have to pay for that damn window now, Nawaki shouted. Kushina ignored the shouting and just stared ahead of her, getting lost in her thoughts, but before long she was broken out of her thoughts by someone shaking her shoulder. She looked to see who it was, noticing that it was Shisui. We are here, Kushina. I thought I should let you know since you looked out of it at the moment, Shisui said. Kushina nodded as she looked around the clearing, clearly not seeing their sensei anywhere in it. She saw Nawaki scowling out of the corner of her eye. Where the hell is he? He told us never to be late, but here he is 5 minutes late himself, Nawaki shouted. He was looking around at the trees thinking that their sensei must be here already and they were just being tested again. Kushina and Shisui ignored him as Shisui went and sat down in the shade beneath a large tree to relax until their sensei got there. Kushina was about to go relax as well before she felt a hand land on her shoulder. You guys got to pay more attention to your surroundings, Naruto whispered in her ear. She jumped forward squealing, gaining a crimson blush across her face. Naruto started chuckling when Kushina squealed because it was just too hilarious not to. Shisui had quickly jumped up to his feet when Kushina had squealed, while Nawaki was rolling around on the grass laughing his ass off. Why the hell did you sneak up on me, stupid sensei? Kushina shouted. She was completely embarrassed with what happened. She could not make eye contact with any of them. Naruto walked up to her, putting his hand on her shoulder once again, making Kushina look up at him in the eyes. Calm down, Kushina, it was only a test. I wanted to see if you guys would detect me, but I guess you didn't, so after we get our first mission today completed I am going to set up a trap detecting test to make sure you guys are ready for anything, Naruto explained. As he said this though, his eyes kept looking towards Nawaki because he needed to learn this test the most if he was going to have any chance of survival. He leaned down to Kushina's ear after he explained this, making a small blush appear on her face the closer he had gotten. The Hokage would like to speak with you after we receive our mission to discuss something important with you, Naruto whispered. Kushina's blush disappeared quickly after that was spoken, nodding to show that she got the message. He pulled back away from Kushina once he told her what she needed to do. Okay team, it's time to get our mission, Naruto said. He led them out of the training ground to the Hokage tower. As they approached the Hokage tower, Nawaki leaned a little closer to Kushina. So what did sensei say to you? Was he asking you out on a date? Nawaki whispered, looking quite serious. Kushina looked at him with an enormous blush on her face, making Nawaki break down in laughter once again. He should have learned his lesson the first time, as he doubled over onto his knees from the pain that shot up from his nuts being kicked in. Why did you do that? Nawaki whimpered from his place on the ground, not being able to feel his nuts at the moment. Damn, that must have hurt. I kind of feel sorry for him, but he might have deserved it, Naruto thought, looking back at his team. I did it because you were being an idiot, Kushina exclaimed. She did not care what she did to him as long as he stopped messing with her. Shisui stayed a little bit away from her once her foot connected to Nawaki's nuts. I also did it because sensei would never ask me out because he probably takes me as being too young for him anyway, Kushina thought. She peered up at Naruto after the thought, seeing the look he gave them. She blushed in embarrassment because she was holding up the team up from getting their first mission. I'm sorry sensei for holding us up from our first mission, but I had to do it, Kushina explained. Naruto understood that Nawaki probably had said something to make her so mad, so he forgave her even though he wasn't mad at her to begin with. It's okay Kushina-chan, but we got to go get the mission now, Naruto said, smirking. Kushina gained a tick mark on her forehead, but before she could say anything in retaliation, Naruto vanished, leaving no trace of chakra behind. One of these days I am going to get you back, sensei. Kushina thought as her anger receded for the most part. Shisui hoisted Nawaki's right arm up onto his left shoulder so he could help him to the Hokage tower. Kushina paid no mind to Nawaki though as they continued their trek to the tower. When they finally reached the tower after a long walk because of the hurt Nawaki, they walked up the stairs reaching the office. They knocked getting the okay to enter so they entered closing the door behind them. "What took you guys so long? I have been here for about 15 minutes already," Naruto said. He stood in front of them with a scroll in hand which they realized must be the mission they were receiving. "What type of mission did we get, sensei?" Shisui asked. They all wanted to know but Nawaki a little less than them because all he wanted at the moment was a seat, his legs felt like jelly. "We got a border patrol mission that could take anywhere between 3 days to a week depending on the situation of our replacements. So go home, pack and meet at the main gate in an hour's time for the mission," Naruto commanded. He watched as Shisui helped Nawaki out of the room while Kushina went to follow. "The Hokage would like to speak to you, remember?" Naruto said, stopping Kushina in her tracks. She nodded, turning back around, walking to the Hokage's desk, taking a seat. "Thanks for giving her the message, Naruto, and remember in 2 weeks there will be a Jonin meeting so make sure you are there," the Sandaime explained. "I know I'll be there," Naruto replied as he walked out of the office to give Kushina and the Sandaime enough time to talk so she could go pack for the mission as well. He had a pretty good idea of what they were going to talk about. It was probably going to be on what happened to the Whirlpool village, so she was going to be asking him questions which he did not want to answer yet. "I hope she does not ask me about anything until we return from the mission at least, but that might be asking for too much," Naruto thought, chuckling to himself knowing it to be true. When he was a good distance from the tower he was abruptly broken out of his thought by a loud yell. "Naruto-sensei, wait up, I need to talk to you about something for a couple minutes," Kushina shouted, closing in on Naruto by the second. Naruto stopped in his tracks, slightly looking back at Kushina, catching a glance of her. "No can do, Kushina. I have to go pick up a few things I want to teach you guys on the mission, ya ne?" Naruto replied as he vanished with no trace when Kushina finally reached him. She caught the grin on his face before he had vanished, which ticked her off. "What the hell, get back here," Kushina shouted, although she knew he would not hear her, so she began to grumble as she continued her path down the road. They badly need to learn detection skills and trap detection as well. I mean, she could not detect me on the roof right next to her position, Naruto thought, sweat dropping. He guessed it was to be expected because they were only genin after all, but they should be taught better in the academy to begin with. Maybe he would talk to the Hokage about that when they returned. "I better go get the supplies needed to make the traps I have in mind. When they get through my traps they will be a master of detection if they can do it," Naruto thought, chuckling. He could not wait until that test. He wished he could have them run through it once on the mission, but they would get hurt doing this test and that would be bad because an enemy could attack through the borders at any moment. They had to be at the top of their game or risk dying, even if there were ninjas stationed all around the perimeter waiting for us to give a signal of attack if the need arises. Naruto jumped off the building, landing in the street, making his way to the weapon store. Once he got the things he needed from the store he headed to the gate to await his team. When he got to the gate he noticed Jiraiya and his team coming back from a mission he guessed by the look of it. "Hey Jiraiya, are you the ones we are replacing at the border?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked at him confused because he did not know who he was but decided to answer anyway. "Yeah, have fun, there isn't really much happening there so don't look forward to any action." "By the way, who are you since you seem to be a new Jonin here?" Jiraiya asked. "Yeah, I'm new. The name is Naruto and I am the sensei of Team 5, Naruto replied. A couple reactions could be seen from Jiraiya's team after he said this. Minato looked shocked but the other two on the team looked like they could care less while Jiraiya looked a little pissed but not too much. "So you're the one that sent them to the hospital?" Tsunade would not shut up about how bad you hurt her brother and the other two. "You should not have been that hard on them. I understand you have to be tough since the war is starting to pick up, but try not to send them to the hospital because then I have to listen to Tsunade rant on forever," Jiraiya said, a little mad, but it was quickly replaced by a sigh because Tsunade had really drained him that day. "I'll try not to, but no guarantees," Naruto replied. He smirked because of the look Jiraiya sent his way, but he quickly diverted his look to Minato, who stepped up. "Are you the sensei for Kushina's team?" Minato asked. He looked very shy at the moment, so Naruto guessed he already developed a crush on her before she did a couple years from now. Before he answered, however, Jiraiya put a hand on Minato's shoulder, making him turn his head towards his sensei. Yeah, he's her sensei, but I did not think you would have a crush on a girl already. I am so proud of you, Jiraiya said. Minato blushed in response to what his sensei insinuated. No, I don't, Jiraiya sensei, she is just a friend, Minato said. No one on his team looked to believe at all of what he said. Jiraiya just smirked because he acted so innocent. Naruto looked on at the interaction, not wanting to stop it because he wanted to learn a little more about his father of this time. He was broken out of his thoughts when Jiraiya called him. Make sure you protect your team and don't let nothing happen to them, or I will never hear the end of it from Tsunade. If something happens, I won't be able to hold Tsunade back from beating you to next week, Jiraiya said as he stood straighter, looking Naruto right in the eyes. You don't have to tell me that. The only reason I am tough on them in training is to make sure they are completely ready for what is to come. It is better to be tough on them, giving them the experience of actual combat without having to die if they failed, unlike in the field where one mistake leads to your death, Naruto replied. Team Jiraiya looked at him curiously because he had stood up to their sensei with no amount of fear shown. Hey, just make sure you don't kill them yourself then. I think you pose more of a threat to them than other villages do by the amount of damage that they had shown in the hospital, Jiraiya replied, chuckling. He began to lead his team past Naruto, stopping right next to him as his team kept moving. Do you think you are strong enough to protect them though? One is the holder of the Kyuubi, the other is an Uchiha, and Nawaki is the brother of Tsunade, meaning lots of strong people might come after your team to get one, maybe all of their powers, Jiraiya said. He saw the smirk spread across Naruto's face halfway through his warning. You don't have to worry, Jiraiya. I may not look it, but I am strong. I took down an army of around 500 in the middle of the night, protecting Whirlpool from its destruction, so I believe you should worry more about yourself than me, Naruto replied, stepping closer to the gate to wait for his team as Jiraiya looked at his form god, smacked by what he was just told. The thing is, Naruto did not see his team was already there and heard every word that was spoken between the two. Jiraiya had picked up on it after the conversation, so he decided to leave not a second later. The reason he did not pick up on them was because he was deep in thought at the moment about all the things that had happened so far the past month or so that he was here. Why did you save my village, sensei? I am grateful and all, but why did you risk your life to take down an army by yourself without telling anyone from the village? Kushina asked. Naruto quickly snapped out of his thoughts, slowly turning towards them like he knew they were already there. That's my secret, maybe I will tell you another time, but for right now we have a mission that needs to be completed at the moment, Naruto replied with a grin. He saw an angry look appear on Kushina's face from his diversion from her question, while Shisui and Nawaki looked like they did not care. You can tell us on the way, sensei. I mean, there is not much else to do, Shisui said. Naruto sighed in exasperation, but he quickly came up with a plan, pulling out the mission scroll, handing it to him. Team 5 looked at him confused, not knowing why they were given the scroll, but they did not have to wait long for an answer. No, I can't. The reason for this is that I want you guys to find the border place where we will be setting up by yourselves. I will be waiting there for you guys, so just search for my chakra signature, Naruto said, vanishing without a trace. I hope he actually leaves a chakra signature or we may have a hard time finding the place, Nawaki said, sighing because it would be a long day. Kushina did not hear him, however, because she was lost in thoughts, thinking that she was going to make their sensei talk no matter what. Nawaki had been right, because from when they left the village it took around 7 hours before they caught sight of the fortified building coming up on the path they were on. Finally, my feet are killing me, Kushina groaned. They were traveling pretty fast the whole trip, only stopping once for a water break. Once they got to the fortified building, they were told to go to the top to stand guard with their sensei, who had been waiting there for them a little over 6 hours now. What took you guys so long? Do I need to step up your training once we get back to the village? Naruto asked, smiling evilly. Their eyes widened before all three shook their heads, not wanting anything worse than what they already had gotten. We will make sure we are faster next time, Shisui replied. This got a smile out of Naruto because he finally met an Uchiha who wasn't all stuck up about his own power. Your training will still be the same for now, just make sure you're faster next time, because if you're even a second late on a battlefield the rest of your comrades may already be dead, so don't slack off, Naruto said as he began to look out over the small clearing just before a huge forest that captivated most of the land in the area. Not much happened for 2 days following the patrol around the area and the outlook from the fortified base. Kushina had been bugging him for some answers but she never got any. This infuriated her but she would have to deal with it for now. He had told her he would answer some of her questions once they were done with the mission and back in the village. It calmed her down to a reasonable level. The next morning when he got up, he looked out over the clearing to the luscious forest but that is not what held his sight. No, it was the orange glittering from the Iwa headbands in the forest that caught the sun's rays that had his attention. He showed no signs that he knew they were there because he wanted to see if his team would spot them before he made his move. There looked to be about 20 of them in the area. Looks like Jiraiya was wrong. Some action did find us after all, Naruto thought. His thoughts were cut off as his team ran up to him with looks that said they knew, making him smile because they were already improving from his lessons. Sensei, there are Iwa ninja in the forest on the other side of the clearing, Nawaki shouted. They waited for an order to come but they saw that he was not going to respond. Are we going to attack them now? Kushina asked. All of Team 5 wanted to know because they wanted to test themselves against real opponents for once. Not yet because you guys won't want to be caught up in the traps I have set up in the field. Once they go off then we attack, taking out the remainder of the Iwa ninja that survive. Go tell the rest of the ninja here in the fort that, Naruto said. Team 5 nodded in understanding because they knew how advanced his traps were. They headed off to tell the rest of the ninja but right when they began to announce this to the other ninja, Iwa ninja began to pour out of the woods, making most ninja in the area stiffen until the whole clearing lit up in a blaze of glory. Then the ground shifted as wind blades came out of the tree lines, trapping the Iwa ninja in the field, cutting them up from all angles with no way of an escape. After all the elemental traps went off, Naruto walked into the field to inspect the bodies. When he got to the center of the field where the bodies lied, around 10 Iwa ninja came out of the ground, forming a circle around him. You have no way of escape, one Iwa ninja said, chuckling. The Iwa ninja thought they had him trapped. Oh, how they were wrong about that, and now they must find out the hard way. The Iwa ninja were closing in on him, trapping him in a small space, making him grin with excitement. You think you guys got me trapped? You must be genin to not have noticed this was a trap from the very beginning, Naruto said. The Iwa ninja's eyes widened but had no time to react as Naruto glowed white before exploding, taking out all 10 ninja. No one saw this though, as the explosion kicked up dust, completely covering the field. There are a couple more left but nothing special, just a couple weak ones that did not want to join the fray, so you guys take it from here. If I see you guys need help I will step in, Naruto said as his genin team shot forward, meeting the remaining 5 Iwa ninja out of the whole attacking force they sent. His team finished them off quickly. Nawaki took out 2 ninja, as did Shisui, making Kushina take out the last one, but to be truthful the last one was the hardest because he had Chunin level skills. The others only had a genin skill level, but nonetheless Kushina had one in no less than 30 seconds because the Iwa ninja let his guard down, getting a kunai through his neck, gushing blood before dropping dead in a heap. He looked at his team. Nawaki and Kushina did not look too good because this was their first kill, but Shisui looked fine. The only reason he looked fine was because the Uchiha training method of hiding the emotions was in full swing. Cheer up guys, you needed to kill them. If you didn't then they would have killed you, or perhaps they would have killed everyone back in Konoha. We as ninja have the hard duty of killing for our village, but we must to keep it safe. When you became ninja you chose this path of a protector, but protectors kill for the home or precious people, Naruto explained. His team looked at him with shocked expressions on their faces, but they knew he was right, so they quickly got stern faces as they began to clean up the dead bodies. Know this, my training may be tough and my training methods may seem extreme, but they are for your own good, because it is better to get everything shoved at you in practice than in an actual battle with no experience, Naruto said. He left his team to clean up the bodies with the other ninja at the fort as he made out a message, sending it back to the Leaf Village by a messenger hawk. This is disgusting, these bodies are so mangled up, why do we have to do all the cleaning? I may be a woman but I don't clean stuff like this up, Kushina shouted as she lifted up an arm that was still bleeding but no body in sight that it matched to because of the burn marks up the arm, leaving no chance of finding a match for anything. So they pilled all the bodies together in the center of the clearing. Kaden Phoenix Flower Jutsu, Shisui shouted as he lit the bodies on fire, as well as some bodies that were too mangled up to move to the pile without having to make more of a mess. Finally we are done, time to relax, Nawaki said. The mental strain put a lot of stress on their shoulders. Naruto appeared in front of them once Nawaki had said that. It's done, sensei, Shisui said. Naruto looked around at the clearing, noticing the bodies were burning. "Good, you guys can go rest for the whole morning because we head back to the leaf at noon," Naruto announced. Team 5 nodded as Nawaki and Shisui left the area, but Kushina stayed behind, still standing in front of Naruto. "Why are you still here, Kushina-chan? Do you want to clean up more bodies?" Naruto asked, watching a fearful look appear on her face, making him laugh out. It was so fun to mess with them because they were so innocent still, but it was his job to break them out of that innocent stage in their lives. "No, sensei, I wanted to make sure that you were going to tell me a few things about what happened in Whirlpool because none of them saw the battle, only you who were in it know anything," Kushina said. "Yeah, I will tell you about it, but not right now. Once we arrive in the Leaf Village I will explain a couple things," Naruto replied. He walked forward, placing a hand on her shoulder, missing the blush that appeared on her face from the contact. "I won't hold any of the information back from you because you deserve to know since it is your home," Naruto said. Kushina leaned forward, wrapping her arms around him, burying her head in his chest. His eyes widened, not expecting anything like this to happen. "Thank you, Naruto-sensei," Kushina replied. She had a crimson blush on her face because of the bold act she was doing, but she did not let it get to her. He wrapped his arms around her as well, not really knowing why, but he felt the need to comfort her. She pulled back from the hug when her blush vanished from her face. "You need to clean your hair better, there is still some blue paint left," Naruto said, smirking. He began to take a couple steps back as Kushina growled at him. "You're the one who got the paint in my hair and you're standing here telling me to clean my hair better." "I have been, but your stupid paint won't come out that easy," Kushina shouted, pulling out a couple of kunai, chucking them at him. "Maybe I should not have said that," Naruto thought as one of the kunai whizzed by his head and another soared by his arm. He vanished a second later without a trace, leaving an angry Kushina still standing in the clearing. "You need to calm down, there might be more ninja nearby," a random chunin said, walking up to her. Kushina turned towards him with a look that said, "Mess with me, you're dead." The chunin began to sweat heavily. He was having second thoughts about trying to talk to her now. "Leave, I have to think of a way to get him back," Kushina growled out. The chunin left quickly, kicking up dust in his wake. At noon they left the fortified border base, and by night they finally could see the gates of Konoha coming up closer by the second. They had gotten no breaks along the way because Naruto had wanted to make sure they were not attacked again at all on the way back. Kushina had been trying to play pranks on him at the base before they left and along the way back to Konoha, but she still did not get him back yet, which irritated her to no end. "You guys are dismissed, I have a meeting with the Hokage," Naruto commanded as he vanished with no trace as they entered the village, leaving them to sign in at the gate. "I need to get some sleep. My sister will probably want to have a pretty big party for my birthday tomorrow, and sensei will probably run us ragged in that test he spoke of," Nawaki said. Kushina and Shisui agreed that Naruto would not go easy on them because he had stated that himself. "Don't worry, we will kick his ass for sure tomorrow," Nawaki shouted. They were now walking down the main street of Konoha discussing random things. It was getting late, so all three decided to head home for the night. As they left, Naruto watched perched on a rooftop close by. Even though Naruto watched them, he did not know Kushina's thoughts were on him. Two thoughts plagued her head, but Naruto would not know of them for quite some time. They think it will be easy, then they got another thing coming. If I want to save Nawaki, then the trap test tomorrow will be no easy feat, Naruto thought as he vanished into the wind without a trace to prepare for the test. Ah, it's a perfect morning, not a cloud in sight, Naruto thought giddy as he walked the main street of Konoha. He had prepared the whole test the night before for his team. He sent a clone to each of their houses about an hour ago, saying to meet him at the Forest of Death, which was training ground 44. The clone he sent to Nawaki's house was dispelled by a punch from Tsunade and a threat that if he did the same damage he had done to Nawaki a second time, she would make sure he would go through 3 times the amount of pain. The Forest of Death is the perfect place for this kind of test. They will have to dodge my traps while staying away from the deadly animals throughout the forest, Naruto thought. He was going to be an hour late though to show up because first he needed to pick up a couple headset radios so he could talk with his team, or they could spread out in the forest to cover more ground. Once he had gotten the radios, still about 40 minutes remained before he had to meet his team, so he decided to go train. Team 5 sat in the clearing before the Forest of Death waiting for Naruto. "Where is he? If he doesn't get here soon I am going to kick his ass," Nawaki shouted, jumping up to his feet. He wanted to get the test started already passing it so he could go to the party his sister had set up for him. Kushina and Shisui were both invited. Their sensei was too, but he still had not shown up yet, so he could tell him. Calm down, Nawaki, he will be here when he has everything he needs. We only just got back yesterday, so he probably needs supplies for this test, Shisui said calmly. Shisui sat in a meditative poise in the grass with his eyes locked on Nawaki, who was pacing back and forth. Damn it, stop that, it's annoying, Kushina told Nawaki. The pacing was driving her nuts. She was trying to think of ways to get their sensei back, but she couldn't with Nawaki bothering her. Mind your own business, Nawaki shouted. He turned in her direction, getting met with a fist into his gut, doubling him over before a kick to the face sent him into one of the many gates of the Forest of Death. Nawaki did not get up right away, but Kushina did not care. All she did was sit back down to think once again. Not matter how strong our sensei is, I will get him back at least once, Kushina thought, crossing her arms. She knew it had to be something he would not expect or it would not work, but that was the thing. What would he not expect to come from her? None of Team 5 sensed Naruto, who was perched in a high tree above the gate Nawaki had collided with. He looked down, chuckling at his team. They really do like fighting. It might become a problem in the long run, but I will deal with it later when I feel that it gets out of control. I better go meet them or they may attack me too, Naruto thought as he landed next to Nawaki, who was slowing lifting himself up. He jumped from the sudden appearance of his sensei, making his head collide with the metal gate, giving him a nice bump. What the hell, tell us when you're going to appear out of nowhere, Nawaki shouted, rubbing the back of his head from the pain. Kushina shot up out of her sitting position at Naruto, whose eyes widened, not believing that she actually was trying to hit him. He noticed Shisui slowly got up from his meditative position with a sigh. This isn't going to work, Kushina-chan, Naruto said, catching her fist in his hand. Kushina swung her other arm around trying to get him, but it was quickly deflected as well. She jumped back, giving herself some room to think about how she was going to attack. She didn't get the time, however, as Naruto appeared behind her, pinning her arms behind her back. He leaned forward to her ear, breathing heavily in it to tease her. Kushina's face became crimson from the contact. Now Kushina, the test did not start yet, so calm down and maybe I will give you something special, Naruto said. Kushina's face got even darker after the comment. She began to feel dizzy, not knowing why. You're so fun to mess with, Naruto whispered in her ear. He released her as he walked to the gate Nawaki had been at, but he now stood near Kushina and Shisui. He could hear that Kushina was grumbling, while Nawaki sported a big old grin as he looked at her. Stupid sensei, why'd I always feel weird when he is near me like that? He is the only one that I get the feeling from when he is close to me, Kushina thought. She quickly pushed those thoughts out of her head as their sensei began to speak, or he would have if Nawaki did not interrupt him. Hee Kushina, did you think sensei was going to give you a kiss? Nawaki said. He began imitating what a kiss looked like, but before long his face met the ground. Curiosity of Kushina's fist to the top of his head. Shut up, you idiot, I do not want anything from him, and I especially don't want a kiss from him, Kushina shouted. Her face was covered in a blush. It looked like she was mad, but probably was from embarrassment. She continued to stomp on his back, taking the cries of pain from Nawaki as a sign that she was doing her job right. Naruto knew he had to stop this before Nawaki got hurt. He could not let any of them injure each other before his test. I could give you a kiss if you want, Naruto said in a serious tone, trying to hide the laughter he held in. He could not wait for her reaction to come from what he just announced. Out of the corner of his eye he caught Shisui looking calm as ever. He must have known what he was trying to do. What be you? But Kushina stopped stomping on Nawaki as she turned to look at Naruto. Her face was dark red, just like her hair, with no signs of turning back anytime soon. She could not believe that he just said that because she did not know how to respond to it. She was not expecting him to come right out and ask her. A couple moments later, though, the blush faded from her face as it was replaced by a scowl. You're messing with me, aren't you? Kushina growled out as a grin appeared on Naruto's face. Yep, but enough of the teasing. Here, Naruto said as he pulled out 3 headsets for them to use. Nawaki had gotten back onto his feet when Naruto had caught Kushina's attention. Nawaki, Kushina and Shisui caught the headsets as they were thrown to them. They were confused, but they strapped them on anyways. What are these for, sensei? Shisui asked. Nawaki had been about to ask but did not get the chance to. Those headset are so I can communicate with you guys in the forest behind me. You can also use them to communicate with each other. Your goal for this test is to find me without setting off any of the traps in the forest. If you set off a trap, I can change my hiding position every time you activate a trap, meaning the test will get longer. Your second goal will be once you find me, you have to fight me for about a minute. Not very long, I know, but the point of this test is detection, Naruto explained. All of Team 5 nodded their heads as they walked up to the gate that Naruto was standing next to. Good luck, I hope you like my traps, Naruto said, grinning. He was about to dispel, but Nawaki stopped him a moment before he could. Wait, sensei, after this test is over, my sister wanted me to invite my team to my party. Kushina and Shisui are already going to be there, so would you come? Nawaki asked. Sure, why not, as long as Tsunade doesn't try and kill me, Naruto said. Nawaki nodded his head as Naruto went up in a plume of smoke, indicating he had been a shadow clone the whole time. I guess we can begin, Kushina said. He never told them when to begin, but it did not really matter. They jumped into the forest a second later. I think we should split up because we can cover more ground easier, and if we find sensei, tell the other two through the radios, Shisui said. Kushina and Nawaki nodded as they split up. Shisui went straight ahead as Kushina went left and Nawaki went right. They were being very observant as they went because they did not want to hit any of sensei's traps. Nawaki had too much on his mind though, because when he jumped to the next branch, a tripwire sprung, breaking in two, making his eyes widen. Shit already, Nawaki shouted. Multiple kunai came at him from all angles, so he did the only thing that came to mind, dropping to the forest floor, but that must have been precisely what Naruto thought the person would have done as a big pit opened up covered in explosive tags. He was about to fall in the pit, but he caught the side of it as his body hung down into the pit. As he climbed out, he thought he was in the clear. The luck was not on his side when one of the kunai that were launched from the previous traps fell into the pit, igniting the explosive tags. Nawaki's eyes widened as he stumbled away from the pit as fast as he could. A second later, the area was lit with a white light as several trees were uprooted and launched in multiple directions. Nawaki had gotten out of the main blast radius but was still hit with the force of it, flinging him about 10 feet away from the pit, face planted into the side of a tree. I have to worry more about sensei's tests than dying in the field against the enemy, Nawaki groaned. He fell onto his back trying to catch his breath. It had hardly been 5 minutes and a trap almost killed him already. Unknown to Nawaki, a Naruto clone sat up in a tree a little ways away, watching everything that he did. He wasn't the only one being watched. Shisui and Kushina were being watched too. The reasons the clones were watching them was to make sure none of them died and to provide another challenge before they reached the real Naruto. I can't stop now, I got to find sensei, Nawaki shouted. He quickly got up, darting in the direction he had been earlier before the trap had been set off. He was paying more attention now to his surroundings, managing to disable a couple traps without setting any off. Shisui was doing even better than Nawaki was because he had set no traps off yet but disabled around 8 traps already. Sensei sure filled this forest with traps, one wrong move and I am dead. I don't think he would let it come to that though, Shisui thought. He missed the next branch, having to opt for the next one or land on the forest floor. He landed on the next branch, missing the see-through tripwire he sprung, but he was more concerned by the giant spider that now hung down in front of him. Pulling out several kunai, launching them at the spider, hitting it in 2 of its eyes, as the others were deflected by its leg. This thing is not like a normal spider, Shisui thought, trying to come up with a plan, but a plan was given to him as fireballs came at him from above and from all sides. Shisui jumped to the side quickly, using another tree as cover. He knew that his body would have burns when this was over, but he would be fine enough to continue. 2 of the fireballs slammed into the spider, burning it to a crisp as it dropped down to the forest floor dead before it even made contact. The rest of the fireballs hit the trees in the area as the fire spread like wildfire through the area. The flames came around the tree Shisui was hiding behind, starting to burn the sleeves of his shirt, but before the fire could reach his shirt completely, the fire was extinguished by water that came out of 4 activated seals on a couple trees. Thank you, sensei, Shisui thought. He was very grateful that Naruto had set up countermeasures just in case his traps had gotten out of control. He stepped back near the spot he had stood before, noticing the now dead spider below, or what was left of it. I'm lucky I wasn't hit. I would look like that spider right now, Shisui said. He inspected the area, seeing nothing he could use, continued his trek through the forest, being even more careful of his surroundings now. He missed the seals that were set off from the water. He jumped in mid-air to land on the next branch, but before he could reach it, a force slammed into him, sending his body smack down into the forest floor, which did not feel very good, possibly 2 broken ribs from the impact, maybe more. Crap, I wasn't expecting that. What happened? Shisui groaned. He could not get up. It felt like a couple tons were placed on his back, making him unable to move at all. He was only able to lift his head enough for him to get a glance at the area. What he saw were seals on almost every tree, barely visible even to the most hawk-like eyes. How are we supposed to find him and complete this test if his traps are almost undetectable? At least I am the only one trapped here. It was a good idea to split up after all, Shisui thought. He was in a lot of pain, but he would bear it. It was a good thing he landed in high grass. Even though he still hit the ground, it was a softer landing than if he collided with complete dirt ground. Those seals activated at the worst possible time. A Naruto clone thought, sighing as it smacked its forehead. He was going to get yelled at from Tsunade, especially since Shisui was going to be at the party later. I better go release him so he can at least get up and not get eaten by the wildlife in the area, the clone thought. It jumped down to the forest floor, putting a hand on the base of a tree. A second later, all the seals grew dim in the area before completely going out as the weight was lifted. Shisui noticed the change of weight immediately as he slowly got up into a sitting position, holding his side as pain shot up him. He knew he could not continue anymore by the state he was in, but he had to, so he was about to call one of his teammates for help, but a hand landed on his shoulder before he could ask for anything. You did enough, you pass, the clone said. Shisui turned his head slightly towards him to get a better look at his sensei. What about Kushina and Nawaki? Shisui asked. Don't worry about them. You know how to detect traps really well, so you pass, but they have not yet. You are going to the hospital now to get treated, but don't worry, I will pick you up for Nawaki's party later, Naruto said. What he said was true. Shisui had great detection capabilities, probably because of him being an Uchiha, but who knows. His best traps were laid out further into bad. Shisui got hurt too much to continue on. Shisui nodded in understanding, even knowing himself that continuing would be impossible. Shouldn't you make a clone to take me though? I mean, you can't just leave them here with all of your traps alone. Unless you are a clone, Shisui said. Naruto nodded to the last part, hoisting Shisui onto his back, disappearing without a trace a moment later. I don't even know where I am going, Kushina grumbled. She had turned back when she heard a muffled yell come from the radio that sounded like Shisui. She needed to make sure he was okay. She stopped on the next branch, disabling the trigger for a trap that was set on the branch before moving on. The forest was like a maze, but without a direction. It was too dense to really see much any which way. Her thoughts were cut off as she landed on the next branch headlong into Nawaki as they both tumbled to the ground in a heap. They both groaned as they entangled from each other. Watch where you're going, Kushina, you could have killed us both. Why are you going this direction anyway? Didn't you go left? Nawaki said, a little angry at being knocked out of a tree. Shut up, I came back this way when I heard Shisui yell over the radio, Kushina said, punching Nawaki in the arm. Nawaki opted to shut up because they were both here for the same reason, to help Shisui out of whatever trouble he had gotten into. He began looking all over the area they were in, feeling a chakra build up around them. Kushina felt it too as she looked all over as well. They could not see nothing though. I guess it's time for the next phase of the test, Naruto thought. As he appeared from behind a tree near Nawaki and Kushina, making them take a couple steps back. I thought we had to come find you. Why are you here? Kushina asked. They knew something was up when a grin appeared on his face, making them gulp. The test has changed slightly since I took Shisui captive, Naruto replied, pulling out Shisui from behind the tree he had stepped out from. His hands were tied, as were his legs. There were no noticeable injuries anywhere on him. They must have heard Shisui earlier if they came this way, so this clone here will be their test. If they take the bait, they fail, but if they don't, then there is one more part of the test left, which is going to be my favorite, Naruto thought, chuckling. He was definitely enjoying himself toying with fresh genin. Why are you holding him hostage? I thought this was supposed to be a trap detection test, Kushina said. It is, but I decided to add another part to the test. This will show me if you're ready for actual battles in war, because you have to fight while watching your surroundings for any danger. So come and try to take him back, Naruto said from his position beside Shisui. Nawaki threw multiple kunai at Naruto, following it up with a couple shuriken directly behind the kunai. Shinra Tensai, Naruto said as the kunai and shuriken were inches from him, flinging back towards Nawaki. Lucky for him that he knew something like that would happen, so he was able to move out of the way in time. Naruto quickly turned his attention back to Kushina as a chain rushed at him from the ground. Crap, I forgot that she could do that, Naruto thought, jumping back a good distance away, giving enough time for Nawaki to grab the clone that looked like Shisui, jumping back to land next to Kushina. When did you learn that? Naruto asked. He was shocked because he did not think Kushina would know that at such a young age already. I figured out how to do it on that mission we were on. I still don't know how I can do it, but I can still use it against you, Kushina said, grinning. Around 5 chains shot forward at Naruto, making him deflect one of them as he charged at them to show that she still needed practice with the move. The 4 remaining chains tried to wrap around him, but he just vanished as he appeared behind Kushina, kicking her in the back, sending her towards a tree, but she never hit the tree as Nawaki appeared in the path, catching her before impact. He placed her back onto her feet, getting ready for another round with their sensei. Shisui was leaned up against the tree behind them. Kushina, are you okay? Can you still fight? Nawaki asked. He could tell that she was winded and tired being hit around like that. She wasn't a person to give up though, so she got back into her fighting stance. I'm good, just protect Shisui so sensei cannot get anywhere near him, Kushina said. She glanced at Nawaki, catching the nod he sent her way. Nawaki looked back towards the downed form of Shisui, realizing something. That yell over the radio sounded like Shisui was in pain, but here he looks to be perfectly fine, Nawaki thought. His eyes widened, realizing that it was one of his clones that would probably explode. He launched forward, grabbing Shisui by his shirt, tossing him quite the distance away so Naruto could not use it against them. Kushina looked on, shock and dumbfounded that Nawaki had just tossed their teammate across the clearing, while Naruto grinned in approval, finally making some progress with them. Why did you do that? Kushina said angrily. I did it because it was a clone made by our sensei to explode. Remember what he did against us during the genin test? I believe he was trying to do the same thing again to see if we learned anything, Nawaki explained. Kushina finally understood, so she turned back to Naruto, thinking the test was finally over. Is the test over now, since you can't pull one over on us now? Kushina said, taunting him. Naruto just stood perfectly still, with the grin still plastered on his face. Nope, you first have to find a way out of this situation, Naruto said. A horde of clones popped out of everywhere, surrounding Kushina and Nawaki on all ends. They started going through hand signs as the gravity began to increase around them, pushing their bodies harder into the ground by the second. They were still standing, but not for long because their legs were starting to give out, so they needed to come up with a plan, and fast. What should we do? Nawaki said, hoping Kushina had a plan to get out of this mess they were in. Kushina began to think, after a couple seconds, finally coming up with a good enough plan that might work. 10 chains shot out, wrapping around 10 clones before the chains launched them into the others, giving them a hole to escape through, but they had to hurry as the clones started glowing white. Just as they made it a couple feet away, the area exploded outwards, taking out trees and even some of the ground by the amount of clones that had went off. When Naruto noticed how big the explosion was going to be, launched himself in front of his team, slapping his hands on the ground, making a rock wall rise up out of the ground, blocking the explosion. Thanks, sensei, Nawaki said, falling on his ass, huffing from exhaustion. Kushina was mad, but she saw how he protected them from his jutsu, knowing that it was a little too much for them to handle, so she decided to forgive him for now. Naruto lowered the rock wall once the explosion had ceased. The amount of damage done to the surrounding trees and ground probably will never be fixed completely, because right now it looked like a small wasteland. I don't think I should have made so many exploding clones, Naruto said, sweat dropping, not really knowing that it would cause this much damage to the area. You went way too far, sensei, but where is the real Shisui anyway? Nawaki asked from his position on the ground. Oh, he is in the hospital because he broke a couple of ribs falling mid-jump into the ground, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. How did he fall mid-jump? Kushina asked. She was curious because most people did not just fall for no reason, so sensei must have done something. Naruto saw the accusing look Kushina shot his way. Hey, it wasn't completely my fault. He stumbled in range of my gravity seal that I placed up over an area extending the flux and gravity. The seals had activated when he was in mid-air, making him land hard on the ground, not able to get up, Naruto explained. He saw them sigh. They probably wished they had a different sensei at the moment. "You're crazy, sensei," Nawaki says, standing up. "At least you guys didn't get hurt as bad and you did learn something. You knew Shisui was a clone and you guys were able to detect my traps after a bit of work, so my training helped," Naruto replied. Team 5 began their walk out of the forest. "You could teach us a little differently, maybe, so we don't end up hurt every training session," Kushina said. She felt so sore and it was only about 5 in the afternoon, so she still was going to go to Nawaki's party. "It doesn't matter, at least it is over with for now. I got to go home to start the party with my sister. You coming, sensei?" Nawaki asked. Naruto told them he would go to the party later after he picked up Shisui from the hospital first. He vanished without a trace a moment later, leaving Nawaki and Kushina to leave the forest by themselves. Naruto quickly went to pick up the present from his place he had been saving to give to Nawaki on this day. After he got the wrapped present from his place, he went to the hospital picking up Shisui for the party. "Next time, no gravity seals, sensei," Shisui said as they approached Nawaki and Tsunade's house. "I wasn't planning on using them anymore in training sessions anyway because they are unpredictable," Naruto explained to Shisui, knocking on the door. The door opened, revealing Tsunade standing there. She noticed Shisui was leaning on Naruto for support. "Did you hurt him in one of your training sessions again?" Tsunade said, growling. "No, I didn't. One of my seals that were laid out went off at the wrong time, sending him into the ground hard. So I decided I am not using them anymore when training them because it is too dangerous," Naruto said, putting a hand on Shisui's shoulder, about to lead him in. He didn't get the chance as the door flung open more, revealing Jiraiya, who looked to be a bit tipsy already. "Come in, the party just started," said a drunk Jiraiya, leading both Naruto and Shisui into the house as Tsunade closed the door behind them. Jiraiya led them to the living room, where he noticed Kushina and Nawaki were hanging around Jiraiya's team talking about random things. Minato was sitting awfully close to Kushina, but her sight was set on Naruto, who just walked in the door with Shisui. She and Nawaki bolted off the coach, running to Shisui to check him over. After an hour of talking, it began to get late, so they ate dinner. Having dinner with Tsunade and Jiraiya was one thing he never really got to do in his time. He made sure to enjoy every minute of it. "I'm going to change things and make them better no matter what," Naruto thought as he looked around at the dinner table at all the faces. Kushina was sitting next to him on his right, while Shisui sat to his left. They began discussing the training he had his team go through, as did Jiraiya, before they began to eat cake. Once the cake was gone, they each handed Nawaki a present for his birthday. He was sitting on the coach as he opened each and every present, very excited by all the things he got. What caught his eye though was the wrapped present Naruto presented him a moment later. "This is a special gift from me, Nawaki," Naruto said as Nawaki began to tear the paper off. Once the paper was off, he opened the box, revealing a katana with a white hilt and a blackened blade. "Thank you, sensei," Nawaki said, memorized by the sword, not expecting to get a present like this. "Nice sword, it looks very expensive," Jiraiya commented, studying the sword's design as he stood next to Naruto. Naruto turned his head to take a glance at him. "It wasn't too expensive, but I wanted to give him something nice for the training I had them go through," Naruto said. He liked training them because it gave him something to do. "What about his sensei?" Kushina asked. They all went through the same training sessions that Nawaki had. "You will get something on your birthdays just like Nawaki has, but it won't be the same thing," Naruto explained, not wanting to say any more about their gifts, for when the time came they would receive their gifts. He noticed out of the corner of his eye how Minato was staring at Kushina. "You should tell us the story of how you took down that army of ninja before they could reach Whirlpool," Jiraiya said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "Nah, I don't think it is such a good idea," Naruto replied. He caved in though when Kushina and the rest of the room said they wanted to hear it too. So he sat down next to Nawaki, beginning to tell them about the battle, leaving out the Rinnegan abilities, putting other things in their place, but the short time to change it was caught by a couple people in the room, mainly Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kushina and Minato kind of felt something was wrong with the story. After he was done telling his story, he looked around the room at all the shocked faces. They could not believe how easily he had taken down an army. Kushina had sat down next to him about halfway through the story, but now she was leaning on him out cold. A shadow clone quickly materialized in the room, picking up Kushina, taking her home for the night. Jiraiya began his tales of adventure, explaining some of his many battles against ninja to that date. His stories lasted quite a while, but everyone enjoyed themselves. Well, Nawaki and Shisui were having fun, but the rest were sound asleep, so Jiraiya decided to take them home after wishing Nawaki a happy birthday one more time. Shisui left a couple minutes later and then he began to leave but he caught sight of Tsunade pulling Nawaki towards the back. The party began to wane down, so Tsunade decided to give Nawaki her gift to him, now leading him onto a little balcony out back of the house. "Why do you want to give my present to me out here, Nei-chan?" Nawaki asked. "The reason I want to give it to you out here is because I want to know what your dream is first," Tsunade said. Nawaki thought about it for a second, quickly finding the answer because he always wanted to become it since he was young. "My dream is to gain the respect of everyone, to become the greatest Hokage ever so I can protect everyone in the village," Nawaki said. He smiled, knowing this is what he truly wanted and he would go forth full tilt to accomplish this. Tsunade smiled as she slowly began to take off her grandfather's necklace, placing it around Nawaki's neck, gaining a shocked look from him. "Why are you giving me this, Nei-chan? I thought you would never give it away," Nawaki asked, twirling the jewel part of the necklace between two of his fingers. "It is to help you accomplish your goal. With that necklace you are sure to become Hokage," Tsunade replied as she leaned forward, giving him a quick kiss on the forehead, making him blush from embarrassment. "Nei-chan, someone may be watching," Nawaki said, pouting. Tsunade took a step back to give him some room as she stared at her brother in the dimming sunlight. "I'll make you and grandfather proud," Nawaki said, smiling. "I know you will," Tsunade replied, ruffling his hair. Unknown to them, Naruto was standing behind the door that led to the balcony, listening to every word that was spoken. "I will make sure you survive, Nawaki, no matter what. You deserve a second chance. You were an innocent who died in war, but this time you will live on," Naruto said. He slowly walked away from the door out of the apartment, being the last one in the house besides the two Senju. He shut the door behind him as he walked into the streets away from the house, looking more determined than ever. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.